Good morning, and here in my old Kentucky home, it's pretty cloudy this morning, but it feels good out. Just kind of got a little 3/4 length sleeve on, which is perfect for this weather. My phone says that it's supposed to be sunny today. The radio said there's chance of rain and storms. So who knows what it's going to do, but whatever. As my mom always said, this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. And we need to say that to ourselves every day because we can't control. there's just some things in our lives we can't control, and the weather is certainly one of them. But I was thinking about the weather. Just think about how the weather affects our lives. If I get up this morning and the sun is shining and it's just so beautiful out, don't that kind of help your mood? And then if it's cloudy, rainy, stormy, some people kind of get depressed over that. I don't really get depressed over that because it's always a good day to take a nap. Sun shining or rain, either one, I don't care. Now, if I get up in the winter and it snowed and they say no school, that's always exciting for the kids. Used to, they would call the house like at 6 o'clock and say, no, I'll take that back. It would be like 5 o'clock and say there's no school today. All right, everybody's excited. You get so excited you can't even go back to sleep because there's no school today. But then you can't enjoy that day because you have to worry all day. Is there going to be school tomorrow? Do you think there's going to be school tomorrow? You're on the phone. Is there going to be school tomorrow? Are we nuts or what? But now in all this new technology world, they call the day before it's even snowed a drop and will say, there'll be no school tomorrow because of the forecast. And sometimes you would get up the next morning and there would be no snow, and then I'm sure they would feel like an idiot, whoever they are. But anyway, if it rains, the ball games are called off. There's so much, if you're going to have a yard sale, look how the rain affects that. So think of all the things in our lives that the weather has such an effect on, that you can always sit in your little cozy house and just take whatever's dished out and enjoy it. So I've got just like, okay, we were talking about, I had to stop and answer my phone, so let me start here again. We was talking about the weather. Now, don't ask me. I just think of these things and I jot them down, and then I just jump from one thing to another. But who cares? Us old people can do that. I was watching on YouTube the other day this woman that had burned something in her pan, in a cooking pan on the stove. And she was showing how to put baking soda and vinegar, I think it was. I think that was right. And put it on the stove and maybe heat it up, and it'd take all that burn stuff out. I can't even remember what I was cooking, but it's been in the last few months. And I had this pan, and I really liked it. It's a nice little pan. It had a little glass lid that you could see through. Why you need to see through it, I don't know, but I liked the pan. That's the point. And I can't think what I was cooking, but I cooked something and just burned it to pieces. I mean, it was that thick, stuck in the bottom of that pan. And at this time in my life, I don't have the best patience in the world. And I looked at that pan, and I tried to stir that stuff out with a spoon. It wouldn't budge. And I made an executive decision, and I threw that pan in the garbage. And I've missed it because I really liked that pan. But I thought, hey, I'm 73. I'm not scrubbing a pan to get some burnt stuff out because I've got some other pans, and I'll just use them, throw this one in the garbage, forget about it. But I've not forgot about it. What would you have done? Now, I know some of you would have scraped till the cows come home, but I'm not going to do that. Especially at this time in my life, I am not going to scrape a burned pan. And I wish I could think what that was, but whatever it was something I was wanting to eat. But too bad, Sally. I burned it up, threw the pan away, forgot it. Now, I want to tell you that. Now, I feel kind of stupid telling you this, but I'm hoping that there's at least one person in the world that doesn't know this besides me. Last night I went to a softball game. Yes, and that is a surprise. That was the last home game of the season. And we're not going to discuss it because I could get mad, but I'm beyond that. Anyway, my girl, of course, did not get to play. But I saw a friend there, which I hadn't talked to for quite a while. And she told me some exciting news that I want to share with you, except now I'm afraid that the whole world knows it except me. So if you're over 65, or if your husband or wife is over 65 and drawing Social Security, okay, here is my situation, and you see what you think. When I signed up for Social Security, I was 62 years old, and I could only draw $237 a month. All right, my husband is 5 years older than me, so he was close to 67. I think I'll have to ask Lois to add that up for me. 62 plus 5 is what? Okay, we signed up. Well, he got a lot more than I did because of his age. Because if you're 65, I think you can draw the full amount. Hey, I'm no expert in this, but I think I'm telling you right. All these years, I say all these years, well, from 62 to 73, I have drawn $237 a month. And he has drawn like, not $2,000, but maybe $1,700 a month. My friend that I saw last night at the ball game, she's getting ready to retire from the school system. And her husband is 75, and she's probably 66, 67. She said that, for instance, I draw 237. My husband draws, let's say, 1,800. That I have a choice of either drawing my little 237, or I can draw half, maybe half, I'm not sure the amount, of his. Like, he can draw his Social Security, and I can draw half of it. And then I don't get this $237. But if he draws 1,900, I would get over $900 a month versus 237. Am I the only person in the world on this earth that did not know that? And why did I not know that? And if that is true, I'm going to tell you for sure next week, because Friday morning, I called the Social Security office this morning, and she acted like, yes, that was correct, but I could either come in to the Social Security office, or they could call me like at an appointed time, and we would get this set up. So they're supposed to call me Friday morning at like 8 o'clock my time. And so I will tell you for sure, either Friday or the first of the week, what came about that. But, you know, my big thing is, here have I been like 11 years drawing this little scrawny $237, which that never goes, well, I'm saying that never goes up. But I looked this morning, and starting in 2025, I'm going to be drawing a little over $400 a month. So they have done that. I guess it's just the cost of living or whatever. I don't know. I don't keep up with that stuff because it boggles my mind and it makes me sad, and I don't want to be sad. So, am I the only one that didn't know that? I feel kind of stupid. And I don't want y'all to think I'm stupid. But I'm going to let you know for sure. I'll either let you know Friday or Monday what I found out. Now, here's another little bit of information, because I'm thinking that somebody had written me a message and said that they maybe were raising their grandchild, or uh, I'm not sure. But anyway, but I think this is because, when my girl came to live with us, she was not 2. And my husband was close to 65. He wasn't 65 just then. But if you have a child, and like he was 65 and she was 2, I think it was because we adopted her. It probably, I don't know anything about Social Security, but because we adopted her when she was 7, we got to draw Social Security from her. So since we adopted her when she was about 7. So from 7 till she turns 18, we have had a check each month from her. And that's great, because the expenses of raising a child, clothes, and of course I have health insurance and all the different things that takes to raise a child. But I did get a letter the other day that said when she turns 18, that will stop. So that has been a tremendous help raising her down through the years. And some of the year, a lot of the years now, not the last year or two, because it seems like our finances have been a little tighter, but in previous years, I have put $1,000 in a certificate savings for her, and then when I would get $10,000 each year, I would get a CD. So we've got a few thousand saved up from just doing that from the Social Security, but my nose is itching. But now it seems like the last few years that, things cost so much that I've not been able to do that. That's just a little free information I'm throwing out there. I don't want to confuse anybody, and I'm not positive about that. But if you have witnessed this, leave me a comment and tell me, and then other people can read your comments too. But I'm thinking, well, I think it's like over $800 a month we've drawn on her for the last few years. That's a big chunk out of your income for a month. So I'm hoping this other deal will work out. All right, I'm going to jump to another little idea that I saw. Hey, all these people are sitting here, talking to you on their YouTube channels, and they're drinking their coffee or their tea. I guess I'm the only one drinking Diet Coke, but maybe that's why I'm so smart. Who knows? But also last night at the ball game, see, I live in such a bubble that I'm not out in public very often, and I saw all these different people last night at the ball game. Oh, they had a grandparents' night. Now, see if this wouldn't make you feel bad. There's 21 softball players, JV and varsity. Out of all those girls, there were 3 girls that did not have grandparents to come to the ball game. So before the ball game started, they had, the kid, grandparents, like maybe some of them had 2 or 3 grandparents, some of them had 1. They did a little sachet out on the ball field, and the announcer, Jane Doe and her grandparents, so-and-so and so-and-so, and they made a little parade, and everybody clapped. Of course, my girl doesn't have grandparents. Here, I could be her great-grandparent. Well, I just, this is just me being old. I didn't think that was necessary. They've already had parents' night. And the only thing I could figure out is, you have to pay $5 to get in the game. Well, see, all those grandparents would have had to pay $5, and nobody comes to the softball game. So that was probably a little extra money. That's my thought. But anyway, that's been such a bummer all year. But again, you wouldn't believe the people that I saw there last night that I don't normally see. Some of them were my ex-students that I had in high school. Just a lot of different ones. But I saw this one girl, and she said, "Hi, Debbie, how are you?" And I looked at her and I thought, I wasn't, just for a second, I didn't know who she was. And she's a girl I have known all of her life, and she has lost so much weight that her little head is just a little skinny head, and her teeth seem like were bigger than her head. Her head was just so skinny, and her body, because you know how she lost all that weight? I'm sure, now I'm guessing, I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but it's a big thing around here, is all these people taking these shots to lose weight. Ozempic, or, there's a lot of different kinds. And I know that this girl has always fought her weight, trying to exercise and eat right, such a struggle. And it's so depressing to have to live like that. There are so many people in our county, and a lot in the school system, that have lost tremendous amounts of weight using these shots. And even some people in my family have used them. And there's all kinds of possibilities, like you could have a stroke, and you could do this, and you could do that. But I'm not the one to say that I don't think you should do. I don't think you should do that. What right do I have to say? I don't think you should do that. If you want to take that risk, Lord have mercy, just if that helps you. But the thing about it is, it's expensive. That Ozempic, they say, is very expensive. And these other brands are not maybe as expensive. But I know some girls that are taking those shots. They're ordering them online, which that's a little scary, because you know how I've ordered stuff online and how that's turned out to be. And they're losing all this weight. And it's not really, from what I've heard some of them say, they still eat pretty much, maybe not as much. I think that would be a motivator, to think you've got that shot in you, that you don't want to eat as much. But they're losing weight. They're losing weight, feeling better about themselves. But are you going to take that for the rest of your life? Because I've heard that sometimes when you go off of that, that's when the problems begin. And have you ever noticed people that go on Weight Watchers, which, Lord, that's such a good program. But whatever you do, and I'm a good one to be talking, but I've been to Weight Watchers once or twice, and I couldn't deal with that. I don't like counting those points. You can lose all this weight, but if you don't make it a lifestyle, you are eventually going to gain that weight back and more. You just look at the people that's done this. But I just admire people that have the stamina to go on these diets and lose a lot of weight. But if you don't stick with it, if you don't make it a lifestyle, you're wasting your time. I'm still coughing a little bit, but not as bad as I was. I'm going to tell you one more little tiny thing that makes my husband and me happy, and then I'm going to read you a funny story. Just the little things in life that you can get pleasure out of. Well, for the last few years, we've got this long back porch behind our house where I've showed you the garden and the strawberries and stuff. And we've got a long concrete porch, the length of our house. And a few years ago, my husband noticed in the spring this little tiny chipmunk sometime would run up and down the porch. He would see it. And of course, it was going around to where the dogwood trees are and where I've got some bird feeders hanging. And he would probably eat some of that food that had dropped on the ground. And that would just cheer us up. We would see that little chipmunk running back and forth sometimes on the porch. We'd say, "There goes Chippy, there goes Chippy." And then one day Chippy will disappear and we'll never see him again. I don't know if it's a girl, if it's a boy, if he's moved to somebody else's house. If he's met somebody and got married and moved off, who knows what happens to Chippy. But then, the next spring, there'll be a new Chippy. And we'll say, there goes Chippy, and we'll follow him, most of the summer, and then suddenly he will disappear. Well, we've seen Chippy, and we've been so excited. And he'll just stop and stick that little tail up, and we'll talk to him for a minute, and buddy, he's fast as lightning. But that gives us a little joy in the day. So that's when you're pretty desperate, right? All right, let me read you this story. And it tickles me that some of you will write me and say that you're reading these to your husband or telling your husband and they're getting a kick. So see, we're all getting a laugh out of these. This was a little bit long, man, and I've already talked 17 minutes. And this morning I thought, what in the world am I going to talk about? All right. Linda Burnett, 23, a resident of Arkansas, was visiting her in-laws. And while they went to a nearby supermarket to pick up some groceries. That don't make sense. Let me start that again. Linda Burnett, 23, a resident of Arkansas, was visiting her in-laws, and they went to a nearby supermarket to pick up some groceries. Later, her husband noticed her sitting in the car, in the driveway, with the car running and the windows rolled up. Her eyes were closed with both hands behind the back of her head. He became concerned and walked over to the car. He noticed that Linda's eyes were now open and she looked very strange. He asked her if she was okay. Linda replied that she had been shot in the back of the head and had been holding her brains in for over an hour. At least it seemed that way to her. It actually was about 15 minutes. She blamed the inability to tell the time on her head injury. Her husband called the paramedics who broke into the car because the doors were locked and Linda refused to move her hands. When they finally got in, they found that Linda had a wad of bread dough on the back of her head. From the back seat, a biscuit canister had exploded from the heat, making a loud noise that sounded like a gunshot, and the wad of dough hit her in the back of the head. When she reached back to find out what it was, she felt the dough and thought it was her brains. She initially passed out, but quickly recovered. Linda is blonde, a Democrat, and a Biden supporter, but that could all be a coincidence. The defective biscuit canister was analyzed, and it was determined to be Trump's fault. If you read all this, you have been cooped up in your house too long. You need to get some sunshine. If you like this, have a laugh with your friends. I'm not going to comment on that. Hey, you guys have a great day. Enjoy it, whether it's sunny or rainy or whatever it does. Let's just be happy. And as soon as I find out about the Social Security, I'm going to let you know. I hope I didn't get anybody all wired up over it and then it's a big disappointment. But if you know, leave me a comment. You may already be doing this and I don't even know anything about it. But you know me, I like to learn something new every day. Hey, have a great day. I'm going to talk to you soon. Just enjoying meeting so many new people and sharing stories and little bits of information. So I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.